And boom goes the dynamite.
Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media. I am Ross Bolen, and boom goes the dynamite indeed. Houston Texans football is in the building and can no longer be ignored. This new era has potential to be our golden era. Real coaching, real leadership, a real football team for a real football city. Let's fucking go. Saturday's super wildcard game between the Texans and Browns might have been the most overall enjoyable, impressive, and exciting win in Houston Texans history. I would rank it above our first ever franchise postseason win against the Bengals, if not only because this game showed we are for real. Not just for real in the AFC South or for real versus Cincinnati. The Texans beat the living shit out of the Browns, 45-14, in a game that Houston sports fans will never forget. The biggest statement win in the history of the franchise. The Browns had beaten the Ravens and 49ers in the regular season, the only two clear-cut juggernauts in the NFL this year, and the Browns, I believe, were the only team to beat them both. So let's talk about how we dismantled a team that many saw as a legitimate Super Bowl contender and what that says about our Texans. This was a total team performance. Offensively and defensively and with special teams, it was exactly what we knew we'd need to advance to the divisional round of the playoffs. And it was the first time ever, really ever, that I felt like I was watching a Texans team that has a legitimate chance to beat anyone and everyone if they bring their A game. That has never happened before. Even back when we had very impressive regular seasons with Matt Schaub at the helm at quarterback and Andre Johnson and Arian Foster under Gary Kubiak, we would get a playoff win here or there, but it never really felt like we knew we weren't like a real threat to anybody. And then we would go on and get smoked by the Chiefs or the Patriots, and it was always, we would crash back down to earth. And this did not feel like that. This was amazing. This was about as good as it gets in terms of how you could feel about your football team watching an NFL game. Like, we did everything right. And even things when it seemed like they were going sideways, like when Tunsil went down, I was like, oh, God. Somehow, he ends up back out there. He pushes through the pain. He keeps on blocking. And, I mean, it was just utterly impressive in every possible way. Here's how the Texans performed against the NFL's number one rated defense. The Cleveland Browns, the NFL's number one rated defense. And here's how we did. In the first half, the Texans averaged 10.6 yards per play. Per play. 10.6 yards. You only need 10 for a first down. We averaged 10.6 yards per play on offense against the number one rated defense in the fucking league. If that doesn't get you hard or wake you up, I don't know what will. The Browns had allowed 4.6 yards per play on the season. Tied for best in the league. We averaged 10.6 yards per play in the first half. The Browns did not record a single sack. 0 sacks, not 1 sack. CJ Stroud, not sacked a single time. Texans hit the over by themselves in this game against what was touted as the best defense in the NFL. The over-under was 44. We hit that by ourselves. We scored 45. Against the number one defense in the NFL. Just crazy impressive numbers when you break it down. And the offensive line, maybe more than any other part of the team, deserves so much credit for this win. Like, CJ was phenomenal as always. Some of the receivers showed up big time. Nico Collins continues to be that guy. The defense scoring twice. You love to see it. They pressured Flacco. The defense was great. But more than any other part of the team, you probably need to give this one to the offensive line because they protected the shit out of what is the present and future of this franchise in C.J. Stroud, our young rookie 22-year-old quarterback. The offensive line that was probably the biggest concern rolling into this season, like we've talked about in the past several weeks. We knew defensively we were probably going to have a complete and total culture shift under new head coach DeMeco Ryans. We saw what he was able to do with his tenure as defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, and then you assumed that surely we would make some progress on the defensive side of the ball. But the offensive line going into this season we were skeptical. Nobody really knew what to expect. They were super banged up the first couple of weeks. There were a lot of injuries that we've dealt with. It was kind of cobbled together at different times throughout the course of the regular season, and they showed up when it mattered most on the biggest stage, and really that's something you can say about almost every single person on this football team. And it's what we knew we needed, and they got it done, and it was fucking amazing. It was amazing to watch. The Browns did not score in the second half. They didn't score a point in the second half. The Texans scored 35 unanswered points to close out this game. 35 unanswered? If you told me we scored 35 points, period, I would have told you that's probably enough to get a win. But 35 unanswered to close out the game is just stupendous. Flacco was 34 of 46 passing for 307 yards and 1 touchdown, plus the 2 pick sixes. And if you told me Flacco went 34 for 46 for 307 yards, I would have been pretty fucking concerned about that. But the fact is, they couldn't run the ball at all. We completely shut down the run game. We pressured Flacco enough to where, frankly, he was forced to throw it 46 times. 307 yards, it looks decent on paper, but like Dak Prescott threw for 400 yards last night for the Cowboys, that didn't mean dick, now did it. So, all said and done, defensively we got it done, offensively we got it done. I mean, it just doesn't get any sweeter than this. And let's talk about C.J. Stroud and some of his stats. He has now thrown 26 touchdowns on the year, 5 interceptions, and that's in 16 games. 15 regular season games. Obviously, he missed a couple with the concussion, plus 1 postseason. 26 touchdowns to 5 interceptions as a rookie quarterback at 22 years old is batshit crazy. It's amazing. It's one of the greatest performances by a rookie quarterback in the history of the game of football is what it is. And it just keeps getting better every single week. When you think he's maybe hit a ceiling or there's no way he could possibly improve, he just keeps doing it week to week. And I can't stop loving it as I'm watching. It's fucking amazing. It's incredible. I'm going to say amazing and incredible 500 times during today's show because that's what's going on here. It is both amazing and simultaneously incredible. If I haven't made that clear. My God. So Stroud threw touchdown passes to Nico Collins, no surprise there. And then the tight ends, man. The tight ends, like we know we've had some injuries to wide receiver, right? We lost Tank Dell. Huge bummer. Huge bummer because he was looking like he was probably our wide receiver 1. Nico Collins has stepped up since then. Nico Collins already looked good when we had Tank Dell healthy, but the tight ends have stepped up enormously. Noah Brown goes down in this game. Brevin Jordan and Dalton Schultz are the other 2 touchdown pass catching guys here. And Brevin Jordan's was ridiculous. Like, that was like a check down for 75 yards. And then, of course, we had Steven Nelson and Christian Harris with back-to-back pick sixes on Browns possessions that really put the game on ice. That was it. I mean, it was fucking over. Really fucking over. Christian Harris, second-year linebacker, probably the best game of his career so far. I would say definitely, but I frankly haven't followed him close enough to be totally certain of this. 8 tackles, a sack, and an interception returned for a 36-yard touchdown, which was basically the backbreaker. That is the good shit, son. Thank you. Great job, Christian Harris. Unbelievable. Let's get into some other crazy stats. C.J. Stroud, who again is 22 years old. At 22 years old, I had my thumb up my ass, and I was spinning. This kid at 22 years old is a savant. 16 of 21 passing for 274 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the craziest part about his stat line is that it would have been a hell of a lot more, but he missed a wide open Nico Collins on what would have been a 50-plus yard touchdown catch. And then the 2 third-quarter pick sixes kept CJ sidelined for a long stretch in the second half. And then eventually Davis Mills came in for Stroud because the game was fucking over. So that stat line, 16 of 21 for 274 yards and 3 touchdowns, is basically incomplete, which is amazing and incredible, is it not? He finished with a 157.2 passer rating, the highest passer rating in a game by a rookie in NFL history ever, with a minimum of 20 attempts. The highest passer rating in a game by a rookie in NFL history. He just keeps adding accolades to his ridiculously historic first season. He passed Justin Herbert for the second most passing yards ever by a rookie, including postseason. He now trails only Andrew Luck, who has 4,662 for the record. Stroud also joined Sammy don't even know. Brock Purdy, Aaron Brooks, and Dak Prescott as the only rookie quarterbacks to ever throw for 3 or more touchdowns in a playoff game. CJ Stroud is now one of 11 rookie quarterbacks in NFL history to win their playoff debut. And really, I mean, if you watched all season, you probably didn't expect less from this guy, right? It was never Stroud that was going to make or break a potential playoff run for these Houston Texans. It was going to be the rest of the team. How would the offensive line step up? How would the defense step up? Especially in this particular matchup where the Browns and Joe Flacco, just a few weeks back, week 16, they torched us, made us look like fools. So you really needed the defense to come out and respond, and they did. You needed receivers to step up because guys have gone down, and they did. Everything that we needed happened. Brevin Jordan's 76-yard touchdown marks the longest play for the Texans in the season, and then the longest touchdown in a playoff game in franchise history. There were so many moments in this game where I jumped off my couch and went apeshit that it started to feel a little bit like deja vu. That touchdown was so absurd that the NFL drug tested Brevin Jordan after the game. 76 yards on a fucking check down to the tight end. Whew. Whew. Feels good. It feels good. Texans are the first team to record 2 interceptions for a touchdown in a playoff game since the Seattle Seahawks on January 5th of the year 2008. The defense is real. D'Amico's dogs are doing it. They're doing it. And this was the Browns' worst playoff loss since 1968 when the Baltimore Colts defeated them 34-0. I love stats like that. You got to go back generations to find a comparable playoff loss. The worst since 1968 for the Browns, which you kind of feel for them because there aren't that many teams that have been through as much shit as Texans fans have. The Browns are certainly one of them. There was a certain point in the Texans' existence when I was like, oh my God, we're like the Browns. And that was a really sad day for me. That realization, it was depressing. It hurt. It was sad. And to see this, and to see it with that fucking ass clown, Deshaun Watson, on the sideline. Mwah. Chef's kiss. Perfect. It was perfect. Fucking amazing and incredible. The Texans became the 4th team in NFL history to win a playoff game with a rookie head coach in DeMeco Ryans and a rookie starting quarterback in CJ Stroud, joining the 1945 Rams, 2008 Ravens, and 2009 New York Jets. Another defensive player that needs to have his name called here is Derek Stingley Jr. This guy, I think, is inarguably one of the best corners in the league now. He's one of those shutdown guys. Now, Amari Cooper was clearly not 100%, but I think Stingley covered him on 80+% of the snaps. Guess how many passes Amari Cooper caught when Stingley was on him? 0. Zip. Nada. Not a 1. Derek Stingley Jr., we know who we put on every team's best receiver, I'll tell you that much. I don't know what the fuck we didn't have Stingley doing on Amari Cooper every single play the last time we played the Browns, but hey, we got it right this time. Will Anderson Jr., another dude who came out and played one of his best games of the season. Everybody brought their A game. It was what we needed. Pressured Flacco at game high 7 times and got a sack. Will Anderson Jr. That draft, Nick Caserio, man. I mean, that draft will be talked about for the rest of Houston Texans' existence, of history. To nail CJ Stroud at number 2, then trade up to grab Will Anderson Jr. at number 3 and have them both pan out year 1 to the tune of not only a division win, Not only an AFC South championship and a playoff berth, but a super wildcard weekend win against a team that was favored. We were home dogs. We were 2.5-point underdogs in this game. And to have those two guys come out and play the way they did, Nick Caserio looks like one of the best GMs in football right now. That's what he looks like. That's what he looks like after this season. And this is a guy that, let's not lie, as of last year, we were all questioning whether or not he should be shot in a rocket into outer space. Because we didn't know. Now we know. Now we fucking know. Now everybody knows. Now no questions can be asked about Nick Caserio. Certainly not about D'Amico Ryans. And I don't even, I'm this season alone, I may never say anything bad about Cal McNair again. Just because of this. Just because he found a way to turn it around after it looked like he was going to tank us into the basement of the NFL permanently. Now, there are still some things we have to overcome here. We're obviously going on the road this next weekend for the divisional round of the playoffs. We're not certain who we're playing yet, and we'll talk about that in a second. But we're going to have to win on the road. And this is the only franchise in the National Football League to have never won a road playoff game. So last week I said, hey, historic season, something that none of us really saw coming. To get 10 wins, to win the division, to make the playoffs was such a massive, massive step, or 4 in the right direction. Now, you want to do something more? Go win the first ever road playoff game in franchise history. We are also the only team to have never appeared in a conference championship game. So if we win this weekend, we can check one box, first road playoff game win for the franchise. Check another box, first conference championship game appearance for the franchise. We are also one of 4 franchises to have never appeared in a Super Bowl, alongside the Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions, and Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a really sad list of teams to be on. The Detroit Lions, also on the come up right now, won their first playoff game in a lifetime last night. Really cool to see against the LA Rams. Great game, really fun game. Probably the only game I enjoyed nearly as much as this one, just because it was really close. It was really competitive. Obviously, the Cowboys got blown the fuck out, which I will gloat about in the second half of this show. But here's our setup. Here's the situation for the Texans. If the Bills win today, then the Texans play the Ravens in Baltimore on Saturday at 3:30. No matter what, we're playing on Saturday at 3:30. And again, that isn't a shock. I've already covered that last week. This is our place. This is where we are. This is where we're at. If you want more than that, you're going to have to do even more than this. So if the Steelers win, we play the Chiefs in Kansas City on Saturday at 3:30. Now, the Bills are favored over the Steelers by 10 points. That's a big spread, especially for a playoff game. And it's obviously much more likely that the Bills win and we end up playing the Ravens in Baltimore on Saturday at 3:30. Now, the Ravens are a very good team. They're a very good team. They've got a really good quarterback. They've got really good coaching. They've got a good defense. They're one of the more complete teams in the NFL. They had some ups and downs this season, but for the most part, solid and scary. And everybody knows it's not easy to play in Baltimore. So these guys are going to have to do what they did this week again, but even in an even more difficult circumstance. Rising to the challenge, right? Not being afraid of your opponent, not being incapable of rising up to their level. You're going to have to play your best football 2 weeks in a row, which is really, really hard. I said last week, it is really, really hard to beat a team twice in the same season. And that was one of the big positives going into this Browns game. I felt like we just played them. They just wiped us. We didn't have our starting quarterback. We didn't have our number one wide receiver. We have a real shot because we've seen what they've got and they haven't really seen what we've got. And now you got to put together your best game of the season for the second week in a row if you're the Texans. And if anybody can do it in this league right now that I, have to, without bias, evaluate, I'd say it is the Texans. Because they are playing with house money. They do have nothing to lose. This season is an amazing and incredible success, no matter what happened in the first game of the playoffs, much less the second. Now it's even more an incredible success, but you've got this chance, and it's like what CJ said before the playoffs started. You can't be like, oh, we did good, we'll come out and get it done next year. It's going to be a real building this offseason. We're going to make steps forward. Then maybe we'll be a Super Bowl contender next year, or maybe the year after that. No, you fuck that. Now, you strike while the iron is hot. and it is fucking scolding. You got to do it now. You got to do it now. No matter which of these teams we end up playing, which again, it's very likely it's the Ravens. And you know what? Frankly, I would rather play in Baltimore than go play in Kansas City in the middle of a goddamn blizzard or snowstorm, which almost takes us completely out of it. That's not something we're prepared to deal with. These dudes are down there. Yeah, it's 110 fucking degrees in Houston during training camp and shit. We are built for the heat. We're not built for what they've got going on in Kansas City, and I don't want anything to do with that, and I don't want to face playoff Patrick Mahomes. I'd rather go deal with what they've got going on in Baltimore and play the Ravens. So we'll see what happens this afternoon. Game's at 3:30, I think. So this episode, by the time you're listening, we may already know who we're playing. But regardless, I feel good. I feel good about where we're at. And I've got more things to say, but first, let's take care of some business. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor, and if you're like me, then you're either too busy, too tired, or too ineffective in the kitchen to worry about what's for dinner when you're just trying to relax at the end of the day and enjoy sports ball on TV. That's where Factor comes in and takes care of everything. I just go to the fridge, pick a Factor, toss it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and bang, I'm eating like a king on the couch. It's cheaper, better, and better for you than takeout. Get started on your resolutions this year with Factor so you're ready all 2024. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success all 2024 long. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more. Plus, over 55 weekly add-ons. You'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your New Year's resolutions. Skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door. They're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you to watch sports. Forget frantic lunch preps and rushed dinners. Factor's 2-minute meals are your secret weapon in the new year. Fuel up fast with restaurant-quality meals all delivered right to your door. Look, I've tried a lot of these meal delivery services over the years as a dude who's not very good at cooking. Factor is far and away the easiest, the most delicious, and with the best options in terms of what you're getting in each meal of any that I've ever tried. They're unbelievable. I basically survived off of them in 2023 with a newborn in the house, and I am continuing to survive on them this year as well. They have amazing smoothies. Love the smoothies. Grab one for breakfast, run out of the house. Easy peasy. Head to factormeals.com/BTC50. Use code BTC50 as in banging the can 50, BTC50 to get 50% off. That's code BTC50 at factormeals.com/BTC50 to get 50% off. So one of the things we need to talk about has become even more of a talking point after this win against the Browns. Bobby Slowik, our offensive coordinator, a guy that I obviously appreciate his work this year, but I'm not sure how much credit he deserves versus how much CJ Stroud is just that good. Bobby Slowik is probably going to be gone this offseason because he's had 4 teams now. The Falcons, the Panthers, the Titans, and the Commanders have all requested to interview Bobby Slowik for head coaching vacancies. Now, Bobby is a young guy. I believe he's a first-year offensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken, certainly a first year with the Texans. And he's playing with a rookie quarterback that, again, is having a historic year. One of the greatest rookie performances by a quarterback in the history of football. Now, Slowik has a lot of momentum as a result. And after this game, this is probably his best game as a play caller. Because one of the things that's made me kind of question Bobby Slowik's competency all season long is red zone offense, which he still struggled with the first couple possessions of the game. It gets easier when you have 75-yard touchdown passes and 2 pick sixes and you're not in the red zone. But his red zone offense is still questionable. He does some weird shit. He overthinks it. He tries to get too cute. And then there have just been moments where it seemed like he was too focused during the regular season on developing the run game and trying to have a more even approach between running and passing, which, again, I understand, and eventually, frankly, that panned out. But there were points in the season where that was frustrating too, because you saw what C.J. Stroud had. You saw how capable he was with the ball in his hands and what happened when he aired it out. And yet we were still trying to develop the run and we were getting like 1-2 yards fucking carry. It was ridiculous and frustrating and annoying. And as a result, it has made it really hard for me to evaluate Bobby Slowik. And know just, I mean, I know he's good. What I don't know is if he's great. What I don't know is if he's worth a head coaching position, which is frankly not really our problem. The concern becomes, regardless of how good Bobby Slowik was this year, can we replace him and how easy will that be to replace him when he's gone? Now, it's multifaceted because, for one, you know that sometimes rookie quarterbacks have a lot of success in their offensive scheme, and then all the other teams around the league and their defenses adapt to that rookie quarterback's game, and then their sophomore season they have a slump or it's a little more difficult for them to get things going. That's kind of a thing in all professional sports. Sometimes you have a guy with a breakout rookie year in the NBA and then the next year people have enough game tape on him and they adapt and they don't have such a good sophomore season. Same thing happens in Major League Baseball once you've learned how to pitch to a guy or once you've learned. It just, every sport, the point is teams make adjustments, and sometimes when you have a standout rookie, they can struggle because teams adapt to them. So the question becomes, even if Bobby Slowik leaves, hypothetically, can somebody else come in and emulate what he did this season, or will it actually work to our favor to have a completely new scheme offensively, one that's crafted around C.J. Stroud, obviously, but something that makes it, so that defenses can't just watch what we did in 2023 and then adapt accordingly. So a lot of questions up in the air around what will happen with Bobby Slowik this offseason. But look, I think he's 36 or 34 or something like that. I don't think you can turn down a head coaching gig. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he can be like, no, I really like my situation here. Maybe they find a way to give him some kind of a contract extension or a boost with the Texans. I think you have to take the head coaching gig. And frankly, he's not getting our head coaching gig because DeMeco Ryans is solidified, hopefully, until he dies, because I never, ever want him to leave. But we'll see what happens with Bobby. It's going to be interesting. It is one of the downsides of having this kind of success year one in this new era for the Houston Texans is now our offensive coordinator is one of the hot boys at the dance, and everybody wants a piece of that ass, and that's problematic in terms of having to replace him and keep the ball rolling next season. It's annoying as a Texans fan. I'm annoyed that we're going to lose our OC after this season, because this season has been amazing and incredible. But yeah, we got that to worry about with Bobby Slowik. And again, this is for the offseason. It's just something to keep on your radar, because especially after what he just did against the Browns, when frankly, like I said, best play calling of the season for him. This was something special. Bobby cooked. Bobby was cooking out there. It was Chef Bobby. And he did what he had to do. And it was something. It was really, really something. And he deserves a lot of credit too. He does. And if nothing else, maybe he's not some offensive-minded genius, which I still have my doubts about, but he does make it easy on CJ. He does create these plays where CJ has a check down that almost always works out. He's giving him opportunity, ample time. He's a good offensive schemer. Okay? He might be great. The future, time will tell. But what he did this season was impressive, and he deserves all the attention that's coming his way. So congratulations to Bobby Slowik. And I wish you would stay. I wish you would stay if you're watching. I don't know if you're watching. You're probably not watching. But if you were watching, or if you do watch in the offseason, please stay. We don't want change. This is good. We've been begging for change for years and years and years. Now we've got the change. Now no more change, please. Let's just keep this crew. Everybody's doing what they need to do. But that's very unlikely in my opinion. Now to do some gloating. So the only thing that could have possibly made this weekend of NFL football any better for Texans fans was fairly obvious, right? You wanted to see the Dallas Cowboys shit the bed once again in the playoffs, this time against the Green Bay Packers led by Jordan Love at home in AT&T Stadium in Jerry World, where they had won 16 consecutive games. So after we mopped the floor with the Browns, the only thing that could have made it sweeter, at least for me and most Texans fans, I know some of you kind of go both ways, and I'm not okay with that. It's not right. I don't mean sexually. I mean NFL fanhood-wise. Being a Texans fan, but also being like, I kind of like the Cowboys too. Fuck you. Don't do that. That's wrong, especially now. We have a real team. Get focused. Get your shit together and burn all that Cowboys gear. If last night didn't make you want to burn all that Cowboys gear, yesterday afternoon rather, what are you doing? You just like being a joke? You like being laughed at? Huh? Doubly laughed at from being a Texans fan for years and years. Everybody's laughing at us. Now they're not laughing, but they're still laughing at the fucking Cowboys because, of course, everyone in the world. I looked at the line. I was like, Packers +7. Huh. That's interesting. I mean, just if you paid attention to the Cowboys for the last 20 years, almost my entire life, then you know this is what they do. And even after a regular season where they led the number one offense in the league, the number one offense in the NFL, led the league in offense, you had to know this was coming. You had to know. So betting Packers +7 and sprinkling the money line was one of the easiest decisions I've ever made, and it just made this weekend all the sweeter because, oh my God, did they get crushed. The final score of Cowboys Packers does not tell you they scored like 21 points in garbage time or when the game was largely over. The Packers whooped their ass. It was very similar, in fact, to like the way that we came out and beat the shit out of the Browns. So we dismantled the number one defense in the league, and then the Packers came out and made the number one offense in the league look sad and slow. And they weren't focused, and they didn't have their shit together, and they got pummeled. And as a result, who knows what's going to happen with the Cowboys. Their head coach, Mike McCarthy. It was also hilarious to watch McCarthy have his incredible regular season get absolutely wrecked by the team that he was once on. It was hilarious to watch the Packers have this level of success with Jordan Love after, of course, famously Aaron Rodgers left for the Jets, where he got hurt with an Achilles injury 2 minutes into his season, and then he's just been a fucking drama queen on Pat McAfee's show all year. And it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. Everything about it was beautiful and enjoyable, and I'm so fucking happy. And it could not be a more bright and sunny Monday in my mind, mentally, although it is outside freezing, fucking cold, and miserable. Because apparently we do winter now down here. This is like 4 consecutive years. We have winter now, and I don't know what happened, because when I was a kid, we used to not have winter, and it would be annoying, because it'd be like 85 degrees on Christmas Day. But I took that for granted, because we never had to worry about ice, or morons who don't know how to drive in cold conditions, or losing power, or fucking water, because our government and the grid are it's all run by morons. But let's stay here, let's stay in sports, let's stay in Happy Land. This is my happy place. It's like in Happy Gilmore when he goes to his happy place and there's a little person riding a tricycle and his girlfriend in lingerie serving him pitchers of beer and his granny pulling on the slot machine. That's where we are right now in Houston with sports in general. The Rockets still, whatever, they're like mingling around 500. Some good games, some dog shit games. Almost a really bad loss against the Pistons the other night, but they pulled it out. Texans doing what we've been talking about for weeks. This is just as good as it gets in terms of what we could have possibly expected for this year. And then the Astros still as competitive as anyone else in baseball for the World Series each and every season. So, yeah, this is our happy place. We're finally doing it with all 3 major sports teams at the same time. I don't want to discredit the Dynamo, but like I've said repeatedly, I don't follow the MLS. I don't particularly care. I realize they had a good season too and made the playoffs or whatever. But we are in the happy place now. And I am going to soak it up, enjoy the shit out of it, continue watching about 6 hours worth of highlights every single day. When I get bored or if I have like a brain fart or I even experience a moment of self-doubt or depression, I just open up my phone, I go to the Texans page, I watch highlights for 20 minutes, then I go to the Astros page, I watch highlights from, either 2022 or 2017 for 20 minutes, and then I go look at the Rockets and I feel okay. And it's nice to be able to do that and get a boost and not have any one of your own teams make you want to die, which we've had for a long fucking time. God bless the Astros for carrying us through what was a dark, dark period in Houston sports. We have popped out the other side. We are Andy Dufresne in the rain, and we are really fucking loving it, and I am so happy about that. And on top of that, the Cowboys lost, which, anytime things go poorly for Dallas, that makes me happy. And I will say this, if you are a Dallas Cowboys fan and you're here for whatever reason, well, first of all, fuck you. And second of all, at least you've got the Rangers World Series thing to hang your hat on. As a person who has had to experience a lot of misery as a result of my favorite NFL team, when you got a World Series championship, you just focus on that. Just put on some Rangers gear and move on about your day. It'll be okay. It won't be okay for the Cowboys, but it'll be okay for you because you got something else to lean on and hang your hat on. And that's huge. Speaking of which, I wore my Cowboys hat for today's show. My cowboy hat, excuse me, not my Cowboys hat. My cowboy hat for today's show because we are the team in Texas now. There can be no argument. We have won more playoff games since the Texans' inception than the Cowboys have in that same time period, which is mind-boggling and fucking crazy. And it's also true. It's also true. Now we have another chance to get another one this weekend against likely the Ravens, but if not, then against the Chiefs Saturday at 3:30. And it's just sick to get this national attention and see these guys getting their flowers year one. Year one in this new era is amazing, and I could not be more happy about it. It's the best. Please, if you're here on YouTube, subscribe below, leave a comment, ask a question, give me your take. Let me know what you think about the show. In the comments below, leave a comment. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, remember our program is available not only on youtube.com/@bangingthecan, but also on all the major podcast platforms. Subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your people. Do what you can to help us grow. We appreciate it. We want to stick around and be here for a long time, providing you with the most unapologetic Houston sports commentary in existence. The only way we can do that is with your help. So thank you for being here. Thank you. That will do it for today's show. Remember, again, every episode of Banging the Can is available in full video on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. Thank you so much to those of you who are already there, subscribed and watching. It means a lot. And again, if you would prefer audio, then we're also on the audio platforms, the podcast platforms. Share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family. Support our sponsors. Today we had Factor. Head to factormeals.com/BTC50 and use code BTC50 to get 50% off. Code BTC50 at factormeals.com/BTC50 to get 50% off. Follow us on social media. We are on TikTok @BangingTheCan, on Instagram @BangingTheCan, and on X, formerly known as Twitter, @BangingTheCan. I usually live tweet Texans playoff games, definitely. But like some Rockets games, when I get to watch them, definitely Astros playoff games as well. We do some live tweeting during the games. That's my point. @BangingTheCan on X, formerly known as Twitter. On Instagram, you'll see clips from our show as well as random cool photos and videos from the games and whatnot. Same thing on TikTok, clips from the show. @BangingTheCan. Follow us on all the social medias. It means a lot. And when you see one of our clips or posts on social media, if you would share it, like it, comment on it, that goes a long way to helping us grow and making sure we can continue to do the show as well. Check out my media startup, Bolen Media, at bolenmedia.com. I've been doing my own thing, self-employed, since late 2019 at this point, so like 5 years. We're hanging in there, but it's a small squad. We've got like three full-time employees making all these shows, making all this shit happen. We've got my comedy show, the Ross Bolen Podcast, available wherever you get Banging the Can, as well as Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, a TV and film podcast hosted by myself and one of my best friends, another born and raised Houstonian, Barrett Dudley. Right now, we're talking about True Detective Season 4. If you're watching True Detective Season 4, check out Oysters, Clams, and Cockles. And I am Ross Bolen. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WRBOLEN, at WRBolen. Man, Victory Mondays feel good. Victory Sunday felt good, too. Victory Monday. It's nice. It's really, really nice. I'll be back soon. Maybe later in the week. I don't know. Depends. Depends how the rest of this week shakes out weather-wise and scheduling-wise. But if I'm not back later in the week, I'll be back next week to talk about what occurs in our divisional playoff matchup against either the Baltimore Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs. Until next time, congratulations, everybody. We did it. We're real. H-Town, stay down.